guys, welcome back to Clockwork Noodles for another breakdown of Golden Kamuy Season 4. This is episode number 4. Welcome back to the channel, and if you're not already, make sure you guys are subscribed. In 2 weeks' time, I am crowning top 3 OPs and EDs and current standing animes in my midway review. Golden Kamuy's plot is just as good as ever. I am definitely liking a bit more of a break from our main party. It's giving us backstory, it's giving us filler, it's giving us more information on the side characters, something that you don't see very often in most anime, quotation marks, especially something like Golden Kamuy where you've got quite a vast cast of people. It's often easy to neglect a character or two, seeing how they meet, seeing where they began, even just sewing in just little hints of suspicion at certain characters. I'm now realising who's on screen. I know a bit of their backstory. Definitely having fun with this one, so I can't wait to break down today's episode where we look at Koito, and Koito's a character who really came into his own last season for me. He's a character who's been around, but it was last season for me which did Koito wonders. I think it's when they joined the circus, and Koito just is amazing. He's like a star in his own right. Up until that point, he'd just been a leaky brain fanboy. This episode and last season, they were the ones which really made the character for me, so it's nice to see a bit of backstory and also how he met his own superstar. We also get to see a young Leaky Brain who isn't Leaky Brain, but I want to call him Leaky Brain still. But this is before he had that horrific accident in the trenches. And we get to meet a baby Koito who still has those magnificent eyebrows. For me, the eyebrows look a bit like piano keys. I know they've got that extra bit going on. Everybody in Golden Kamuy has such unique eyebrows, and it does make me think of the laughs from One Piece. If you're a One Piece fan, every single character has their own laughs, and it's just something little like that the author has done. There's something just unique about everybody, and in this it's the eyebrows. We still haven't met the cool eyebrow man in the posters. I want to meet him. He looks awesome. Early on, Koito behaving like a spoiled brat. I feel bad calling him that because I know Agata's the one who actually calls him it at the end. Everybody else also fought it. He was running around causing mayhem. As we find out, he's never been scolded for his bad actions or anything, and nobody's putting him in line. It's Leaky Brain when he almost runs over him, but it does look like Leaky Brain is kind of just like walking out into the road. He is shocked to see an automobile, modern prototype of a vehicle that Japan sees later on because I think they westernized very late. Surprised to see the vehicle itself, and he ends up teaching Koito a lesson, something that would stick with you if you're a kid but you've never been slapped before, if you've never been scolded. The first person who scolds you is going to definitely make a mark on you. You're not really being impressive if you're using your dad's name, so you're relying on your dad's achievements instead of using your own achievements. Why aren't you telling me your name? Why are you telling me your dad's name? It's you who right now is in the street opposite me. And it's that realism that Koito ends up getting with that slap as well. The first ever slap is that realism that you don't actually have anything to be bragging about. It's your dad, you're using his achievements and you're proud of him. What about you? And I think this actually hit harder to him because as well, we later find out that his brother had passed away. Koito loved his brother. He also thinks that his brother should have been the one to survive. So it means his brother had achievements that Koito was proud of as well. So Koito's been proud of both his dad and his brother, but never himself. It's not told in the plot, but it is easy to glean, which is why I really like the storytelling when it comes to Golden Kamuy. It's something that you can pick up and you go, oh, he must be feeling inferior to his brother, especially a bit later on. He's just going to accept his dad's agreement to just leave him be. He's going to accept that. Obviously, he's going to accept that because he puts it down to him being inferior. This episode does very, very well in building up Koito and how he feels with the people around him. Getting some information on delicacies as well, the regional delicacies, that always makes me really hungry. I really want to try some. I would love to, at some point, get a chance to go to Japan and try different delicacies from each of the areas. That would be amazing. This is where we do learn about the dead brother. It's easy to believe that he feels that his brother had more to give to the world. And when he says that I should have been one to die, it's because I don't have anything to give. My brother did this, my brother did that. I'm very proud of my brother, but I have nothing. That's why I think the meeting with Leaky Brain, him realising that he's got no achievements of his own to feel proud about, it hit hard. It hit really hard. Maybe the words that he needed to hear. Trying his hardest to please his dad. He wants to fill the void that has been left by losing a brother. If anything, he's maybe even ignoring how he feels by trying so hard to fit his brother's shoes. The best Leaky Brain line for me, and I love this line, is if we meet again, it's heaven's way of telling us that we should be friends. I love it. When you keep meeting somebody in the streets, you kind of feel like fate is trying to push you together. Maybe you should talk to them or something. That, or they're a stalker, be careful. We do know these guys meet again. They end up meeting at Hakodate, which is the Leaky Brain headquarters, where we end up with the regional delicacy being the Anpan. This next little chunk where we have Koito kidnapped, plot involving the Russians, cool because it also shows us Leaky Brain in action. It shows us how he works, how he's thinking, which I really like, and be the rescuer, be the saviour, Koito's saviour. I don't even know if he initially works out that it's Koito and he'd seen him before. He does initially see the abandoned vehicle, which probably jogs the memory a little bit. So at that point, he probably knew it was him. The idea is to always be one step ahead. You don't fall for a very obvious trap. So we didn't hear the phone. We're going to walk off. We're not going to fall into it. We need to give ourselves an upper hand here. And the idea to try and get the location from a drop call is all about trying to get that one step ahead. So if we can call them and pretend we're playing their tactics and drop it. But we do see that the downside is they're going to catch on quite quickly if you drop a call. It does also build up quite nicely with some stakes. We end up with war in the balance. If I do actually do this, Russia's going to come to war with us. It's all history that I don't really know a great deal of. I do have a degree in history. I did study history, but I never studied Japanese history. I like Golden Kamuy for that. It's a really good historical anime. I really enjoy watching it. And we end up learning that Koito would be sacrificed for the good of the nation. There's a whole country behind these threats, and one person at the sake of everybody has to happen, even if he is his father. The absolute fear that Koito must have initially felt, hearing his father say, "You are going to die for the good of the nation." The actions straight after him starting to kick out and actually retaliate. I believe it's the feeling of being useless, being inferior. I need to put up a fight to be somewhat like my brother in those dying moments. If I'm going to die, I've got to go out with a fight to be even just worth an ounce of my brother. And he apologises over the phone for not living up to his father's expectations, not being as good as his brother. Great moment for him, getting out his emotions on the phone to his father. He grows as a character. He decides, this is my last stand. It's going to be one hell of a last stand. It's also really cool to hear the numbered posts, early phone system. I don't know if these are the actual numbers used for those areas. It would be really cool if it was, and maybe we have a historian or two in the comments. That'd be great if you can tell me, are the numbers we hear in the anime actual numbers for the areas? That would be really awesome. Leaky Brain winky face, that made me lose it. I was expecting something because we hadn't had anything comic in a while. That wink right at the end, perfect. And also sleeveless Leaky Brain. I'm not his biggest fan. I know there's lots of fans in the audience, but I will say I think him having his arms on show, shows off the biceps, looks really good. I think he needs to do that a bit more. He needs to get his arms out a bit more, I think. Would like some confirmation too if anyone else heard Ogata's voice when the kidnapper says the spoiled rich kid in Russian. It sounds like Kenjiro Suda. However, we see Ogata at the cleanup scene right at the end, so I don't think it's Ogata. But whether they've suddenly got him to do the second line, that would be cool because again, he's not really in this one, so they could be like, hey, can you quickly play this random kidnapper dude and say this one line and then say it again at the end just to have this little bit of suspense going on. Unless Ogata was actually linked to this because he does speak Russian, so there's a possibility that he could have maybe conversed with them at some point, maybe. But Leaky Brain does end up saving the day, and that's when we get our hero. That's probably where the fanboying started. And Koito's dad ends up having this nice resolve with Koito, and he also pulls one hell of a sick pose on entry. I love the fact that he was still holding the bike handle. That was hilarious. Finally get to reconcile, and there's a really nice bridging moment when the two come together. That's also where Koito finds his calling in life. He knows what he's going to do. He's going to join the army regardless, and he wants to be with his beloved Leaky Brain. And they were both brought back together by the love of that bread. Pan is bread, but I don't know what's in it, but it looks like bean paste. Let us know down below what food in particular they were eating. Let us know in the comments. That would be fantastic, and if it happens, I'll try and pin it for you. I absolutely love the music at this point though. The music is beautiful, really like it. Then we get that second line at the end by Ogata, definitely by Ogata at this point. Is it anything more than them just using Kenjiro Suda because he's hot and his Russian sounds sexy, or is there something more? Are they linked? Is there a reason why Ogata's using the exact same words, but then it could just be a thing that he's thinking? It would be weird as well for him to say the same line because it then triggers suspicion in Koito, but then Koito's never really been fond of Ogata, so that could be a big reason that he suspects him not being exactly faithful to Leaky Brain or anything. Small part of me wants to believe both lines were voiced by Kenjiro Suda. character somewhat involved, even if it was very minor. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I love this week's episode. This week's episode was great. It's very different from not dealing with our main group. These are all important characters to the journey. Leaky Brain is going to be a very main player for the season, so it's good to catch up with him, get some information. Also fill in more dates along the timeline to what's happened, to what characters have been involved where, before we get to the current days. It also means that we're not pushing our current plot forward much. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I hope you have enjoyed this week's episode as much as I did. Leaky Brain fanboy, fangirl, I really hope you enjoyed this week's episode as you get to see your magnificent leader in all of his glory, even with his arms out. Thank you guys so much. See you guys next week. Have a good day. Bye bye.